It's time to take a deep breath and quiet the mind. Every breath and thought was energy that brought us to our experience in this moment. We are going to exercise our beliefs in the possible. We will bend and create our own realities. Let's explore how to square our recovery and thrive in life. I welcome you to Recovery Squared Radio with your host, Steve Wofford.
Welcome to Recovery Squared Radio. I'm Steve Wofford. First, I wanted to thank you for listening. I appreciate you very much, and this show is specifically created for you. I thought it would make sense for our first show to be about our logo because there was a lot of obvious work put into the logo, but a lot of back and forth, and it was very community driven. But I wanted something that really resonated with everyone. And I know this is an audio show, but if you have a chance, you can go to the podcast art and see it there, or Facebook, or on the website. It will also be there. But if you're just listening and haven't looked at it, one of the first things I wanted to come across was I wanted it to have an organic growth, kind of a rough, edgy kind of look that had a rustic feel to it, that it kind of had been through and weathered a storm, so to speak. But really, the basic outline of the logo is it's a square with an R in the side of it and a couple leaves sprouting out of a seed in the belly of the R. And then there's two leaves that grow out and break out of the square. And it might be kind of obvious, but the R really, obviously, it stands for recovery. I wanted to create something that was similar to the periodic table. And recovery, to me, was kind of a basic element to thriving in life. And so as the periodic table represents the basic elements that make up the universe, what, to me, recovery is in my view, being a human being, we are all recovering from something. Now, I do not try to get involved in the specifics of, what type of drug or person, place, a thing that you specifically had to recover from. In my view, recovery is basically we're trying to recover from the disconnection of our true self. And we are all subject to do that if we choose to grow and especially thrive in our life and live in a constant state of recovering and narrowing this gap of disconnection and living lives that we were truly created to live. And within the R, in the belly of the R, I call it, there's a seed, which there's a couple different things that means. First, obviously, there's a sprout coming out of the seed, and so it's being born into this world and growing. Now, the seed represents growing on a new level. It doesn't necessarily, you sprout once and you just, grow into a tree. At least in my experience, the growth cycle has been iterative. Every several months, I reach these new levels where I almost feel like a completely different person. I'll have some breakthroughs or something will happen in my business, and I feel like I am operating at a different level today. And it's very powerful, and I like the seed. It keeps me in a constant state of learning. The less I know and the less I put out there that I do know everything, the more open I am to possibility. Because every time I think I know something, I often find out that I don't, and it limits me in some ways. One of the interesting things that I realized actually after the logo was designed was that the belly of the R looks similar to a pregnant woman. And what I found interesting about that is there's a concept of the law of gestation. And if you think about this, that really what that means is that whatever we want to create takes time. And so sometimes as we're growing something or we're transcending to a new level, there's a law of gestation that needs to happen. And we don't necessarily want to shut off the idea of things happening quickly, or that it's going to take, or it's going to happen too soon, but being open to creating that life that you want, and it may happen sooner than later. But don't want to necessarily shut down to the idea of when it happens. But at some point, those leaves will begin to sprout. And so out of the seed, there are two sprouting leaves, and that the leaves represent obviously growth to the light or growth into our infinite potential. The two signifies the power of two, or what would be recovery times recovery. And to me, that idea means that we are taking what is typically considered recovery and we are squaring it, we're up-leveling it, we're compounding it. We're like taking it to the max. I want to live in my infinite potential by taking what the basics of recovery taught me and multiplying it. And it's stepping out of the norms of what institutions or society puts on what that means. There's this book called The One Thing. And the idea of the book is to focus on the one thing that will make all things easier or unnecessary. It talks about an experiment. If you stack up dominoes, I don't know if you can visualize the dominoes that you may have set up when you're a kid. You knock over one domino, knocks over the next one, you set up a whole line around the house or whatever. But the idea is if you take a domino and behind it, you put a domino that's twice as big as it, and then behind that one, twice as big as that second one. And if you continue on, the dominoes can reach the moon if you had the room. But the point is that the size of the domino can just keep growing, growing, and growing. And the interesting thing is that you can take a domino that's the size of a millimeter or two, and you can knock it over, and it will cause the domino at the end, however large that is, as big as the Empire State Building, or to the moon, or however large it is. The idea is that those dominoes will continue to fall just based on the domino that was 1 millimeter tall. And to me, that is very similar to like compounding interest, where you're getting interest on interest. And so the idea is to take that one thing, that little tiny domino, that's going to cause the greatest effect in your life. And so a lot of Recovery Squared is about trying to find the different tools that are right for you, that are going to give you that compounding effect and quote unquote square your recovery. The next thing I want to talk about is, I call it the belief box. But society, institutions, other people, they tend to put us into boxes. And I believe one of the reasons that we become disconnected from self is because we get put in boxes via labels or things people say to us that somehow limit us. And sometimes those boxes are a safe place for us, but they also might limit us at some point. A box one day might be perfectly safe, and the next day it might be limiting us. And I believed a box that I needed drugs and alcohol to somehow feel safe or to feel better. And so that belief that was the only tool kept me addicted to drugs. I didn't have any other tools. And when I got to a point where the drugs and alcohol were no longer working, I had to find a different belief because I realized the old one was not working and I had to go search for answers. And I found myself in a 12-step recovery program. And that program taught me that I do not have to use drugs and alcohol, but I am still an addict. And that's what I needed to believe at the time. And that kept me clean for a good amount of time. But at some point, I kept living my infinite potential and learning and literally squaring my recovery. I got to a point where I realized and I questioned, why am I affirming that I'm still an addict? And is that serving me anymore? Because when we put ourselves in a box, we're going to often act within that same box. And by me affirming that I was still an addict, I was opening myself up for other types of addiction that justified what I was calling myself. And at some point I realized that I had to stop doing that. And I ended up leaving recovery. And to me, that was another example of a box that I put myself in that I needed at one point, but then I didn't, and it was limiting me at another point. And so today I try to live by what I like to call my infinite potential. And that's a constant cycle of different beliefs that get you one place. And this can be applied in several different areas of your life. It doesn't have to do with addiction. It could be, it's not possible for me to have $1 million business. Okay, well, it might be possible for me to have $1 million business. But then once you get there, you realize, okay, I'm here, but what's my next level? And this is what I really like about the seed in the box concept, is that at each new box, we can plant this seed, grow it, and go to the next one. But we have to remember that we're in a constant evolution. I often say the beliefs that got us here will not get us there. You could say that with the people, places, and things. And so I'm in a constant cycle of trying to figure out what beliefs are helping me or limiting me. And most oftentimes I'm working with my own coaches to figure that out, because I want to be in a constant state of living what's possible and getting rid of the things that hold me back. So that about sums up the logo. You know, next I can talk about the rest of the cover art, which isn't the logo per se, but it was developed specifically for this podcast. And the background is a storm drain by my house. And what I liked about it is that you could be in the middle of it and it's pitch black, but you can see the light at the very end. And what I really illustrated was that most of my life, I lived in the storm drain of life. It was a very dark place. I had hints of light, but it was like, even though I could see it, I didn't actually know how to walk there to get there. And it was very challenging. And there was a lot of dark times and a lot of tripping and falling. But I kind of always knew within me what direction to go. And so what I really like about that picture is that it's the background and there's the darkness, and I'm leading towards the light now, and I'm sitting in the light side of the picture. And then also there's just the picture of me. I wanted to thank you for listening. I'm so stoked to be able to offer this to you. I put together some powerful tools for our tribe and will help you transform and thrive in your recovery. Go to recoverysquared.com and sign up using the Get Access button. For a short time, I'm offering a free one-on-one coaching call with me. This will not last long. These sessions alone can be life-altering. In addition, I've developed an amazing infographic on how to remove limiting beliefs to catapult you to your next level. I can also grant you access to a secret Facebook group where you can build connections with our other tribe members. These are just some of the benefits of signing up at recoverysquared.com. Just click on the Get Access button on recoverysquared.com. I love you, and thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to Recovery Squared Radio. Please visit recoverysquared.com for access to resources on squaring your recovery. And as a reminder, act without doing. Create space between your thoughts and actions.